Yeah.
Okay, so we've reached the last shiur on Pirkei Avot after more than a year. And as they say in English, we're going to finish with a big bang. The last words, the last Mishnayot are very powerful indeed. And perhaps some of the words that you will hear contain the essence of at least the whole last chapter, the last Braita that we did, but also contains with it some very important ideas that are discussed throughout Pirkei Avot. There's of course a lot more than what we can discuss here. The more you learn what the rabbis have to say, the more insight you can gain. It is also possible to just read through it quickly and just briefly get an idea of what they're talking about. But if you really take your time to think about what is being said here, it is very deep, very powerful, very important. Rabbi Shimon ben Menasseh omer mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. הנוי והכוח והעושר והכבוד והחוכמה והזקנה והשיבה והבנים נאה לצדיקים ונאה לעולם. He says that there are some things in this world that are more befitting if they are in the hands of the righteous and not, God forbid, in the hands of the wrong people. And they are the beauty, strength, wealth, honor, wisdom, zikna, beseva, I guess you can call it old age and full age, habanim, children. This is good, na'ela tzadikim, it's good, it's befitting for the righteous, and it's befitting and beautiful for the world, if they're in the good hands. So before I begin to quote the Pesukim, where they learned this from, it's important to point out that who is the author, or who is the one that said these words. Rabbi Shimon ben Menasseh said it in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who we're more familiar with, the author of the Zohar. Many of you perhaps recall the story of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai with his son living in a cave for 13 years. So some would want to explain that what he's saying here is as a result of the experience that he had in the cave. So in order to understand what happened in the cave, a little bit of background is necessary. Rabbi Shimon is sitting down with a couple of his students, and one of them gets up and says, the Romans, they really should get a lot of credit for all their achievements, all that they have accomplished. Look at all the roads that they've made, the many marketplaces, streets, bridges that they have built. Look at all that engineering. Look at all their accomplishment. And by the way, if you want to see some of it, you can see it today, the remnants, what's left over in the old city of Yerushalayim that is being dug up today. Yes, some of it is impressive perhaps, but this one individual was admiring him then. He was saying, look at all that they have accomplished, look at all that they have done. And Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, you don't know what you're talking about. All that they have done was for their own benefit, not to benefit mankind, not to benefit the world. All the streets, all the roads and marketplaces that they put together, that they've set up, their intention was to put brothels there, to put zonot, prostitutes there. That was their intent. That is what motivated them to do these, to build these things. The bridges, to collect taxes. The bathhouses, for their enjoyment, for the pleasures of life. It says, don't be so impressed. These are not accomplishments. They didn't intend this for humanity. They didn't intend these to be really things to make life easier for people. It was all for their own selfish reasons. Word got out by one of the ones who was sitting there. Word got out what Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said. In other words, that he was, in a sense, being disrespectful of the Romans. And as a result of that, they looked for him. They wanted to kill him for being so disrespectful with this kind of an attitude towards the Romans, who were then in control of Eretz Yisrael. So he went into the Bet Midrash, and that's where he lived for a while with his son. And his wife would bring him food and drink every day. After a while, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, you know what? It looks like the pressure is intensifying. They're really looking for him seriously. We can't anymore stay in the Bet Midrash, because sooner or later they're going to pressure my wife. And when you torture someone, how much torture can you take? She's going to spill the beans, as they say. She's going to have to reveal where I am. So let's go to a safer place. So they went and hid in a cave for 12 years initially. And the Gemara there, Masechet Shabbat, describes the conditions that you recall. Probably there was nothing in the cave except for sand with which they covered their bodies with, in order not to have their clothes be worn out with time. They put on their clothes only for prayers. Covered themselves with sand. How did they survive? Miraculously, Hashem made a tree, a carob tree. Have you ever seen carobs? Those black fruits. You occasionally see them falling in the street. He made a carob tree grow close to the cave, and a spring of water close by. Baruch Hashem, they had water and they had carobs. You can lose a lot of weight with that. Imagine for 12 years, if not 13, this is what they had. Every day, that's all. And they learned, of course, Torah day and night. Eliyahu Navi comes and lets them know that the time has come for them to come out, that the danger has subsided. You can rest assured nothing will happen. Nobody's looking for you anymore. That king that was around back then, 12 years ago, is dead. So they left the cave. And they haven't been in the outside world for a long time. So what do they see as they're coming out? They're seeing people working their fields. They were such on a high, lofty spiritual level that they were upset to see people engaged in matters that are so trivial, like working the land. How could people do this? How could people engage in something that is so temporary, life? Something that's so trivial and insignificant compared to eternity, compared to Olam Haba, compared to Torah and Avodat Hashem, the service of God. How could you replace this for that? How could you think of doing this and not that? They were so upset that wherever they looked, burnt up. In other words, their Kedusha, their holiness, couldn't tolerate seeing what they saw. And as a result of that, they were very destructive of people's property. It caused damage wherever they went. So the time came, apparently, for them to go back to the cave. Mishamayim, they said, you're not ready yet. What does it mean you're not ready? You just told me to come out. You just gave me permission to come out. No, they told them that you pretty much have to go back into the cave. There's something you have still to learn. There's a certain level of understanding that you still have to attain that you have not. So you came out, fine, but now you have to go back for 1 year. 1 year. There were 1 more year. That's why it was 13 altogether. 1 more year in the cave. And after that, they went out, and something calmed them down. It could be, of course, the additional year in the cave, they realized that this was their original attitude was wrong. The way they looked negatively at people was not right. Obviously, Mishamayim, they were not very happy with them. He says, what are you destroying the world? What are you so upset? People got to work. But somehow they couldn't relate to it. So something happened, of course, during the additional year, plus the following incident. As they're going out the second time around, they see an elderly gentleman taking 2 bundles of hadassim. You know what hadassim is, right? We use it on Sukkot, the myrtle in English. And they had a good fragrance to them. And they asked him, what's this? He says, this is the Avot Shabbat, for the Shabbat. He says, what do you need 2? And he says, for Zachor and Shamor. As you know, on Shabbat, the Torah says there is a commandment to remember the Shabbat, to sanctify it, and to guard it, to observe it, to be careful not to do the things that are forbidden to do in Shabbat. So there are 2 ways to give honor to the Shabbat. by doing the proper things, the positive ones, sanctifying, bringing in the Shabbat properly. Zachor, talking about it, remembering it. That's what we do with the Kiddush. We sanctify it, we say that this is Shabbat. Plus Shamor, to be watchful, to be careful, to guard it, to protect it from those things that should not be done on Shabbat. So this is, one is for Zachor and one is for Shamor. And of course that is true with the candles too, the very minimum. Some say that we have 2 candles on Shabbat, also Keneged Zachor v'Shamor. All right. Anyway, they were very impressed how this sincere old man was giving so much kavod to Shabbat with hadassim. Of all things, this was his way, at least, of honoring the Shabbat. And somehow this incident and their renewed thinking, they reached the conclusion that what they originally thought was wrong. It is possible to use this world. It is possible to be involved in the physical world in such a way which will elevate that which is physical to a higher plane. You can sanctify this world. It is not therefore wrong to use the physical world and to build a home, to work the fields. You can do all those things that are quite normal, as long as you focus properly, as long as you realize what is the purpose, the ultimate purpose of these things. Why am I doing it? Am I doing it so I can enlarge my savings account and my pension? That is why I'm working so hard. Like some people think like that. No. It is a means to an end. If people would think that way, then of course the whole world would look differently, of course. In other words, work is a means to an end. It's not the end itself. That's not the tachlit. The tachlit is to serve God. We're here for a short stay, 70, 80 years. And we have a lot to accomplish. Of course, to study, to become cognizant of what we're doing here, to strengthen our relationship with God through the observance of the commandments, to get married, of course, to have children, which is part of the package. But work is not necessarily an obligation. The Torah says it's a curse. We need to do it because we need to pay our bills. It doesn't say so anywhere. You come into this world to make money, and the more you make, the better off. No. That's not what the world is all about, but a lot of people think that way. They think a person is only happy and he's only made it if he has money. If he has a Mercedes-Benz. Oh, you only have a Toyota? Oh, no. I don't want to date you, Girls who are dating, they may be looking for these things. How much money do you have in the bank account? Are you going to buy me a house in Beverly Hills? You obviously meet these people, and guess what? They are the ones who are thinking not what they should be thinking. In other words, they are thinking about the physical world as an end in itself. This is it. That's all there is. Forget about, there's no Olam Haba, mitzvot, Torah. What's that for? Oh, that's part of our tradition, maybe. Customs, tradition, rituals. And this is the ikar. For them, this is the main thing. And this is dangerous, of course. So Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, coming out of the cave, coming out of this long experience, realizes that, of course, everything in this world has a purpose. And it is okay, not only is it okay, it is right. The Torah does not want us to deprive ourselves, to live a life of asceticism in a cave with no clothing, barely any food, fasting, like some people in the past have done. It's one thing if an individual wants to repent, wants to do teshuvah, and he immerses himself in cold water, he breaks the ice, he fasts. Even that is not always a great idea because fasting weakens the body. You have to be careful with that. There are other ways that a person can make up for his past. He can redeem his fast with money, with tzedakah, charity instead. And this would be helpful to others too. Nobody's going to be helped if he fasts. But a lot of poor people could be helped from his charity. So charity sometimes is a more powerful way, or at least as equivalent to fasting. So why fast and weaken your body if you can exchange it through tzedakah? So this is so far a very important point that is being communicated to us by Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, who of course was on a very high level, says, even so, I see the need for everything in this world, including the work, the physical world, but as long as it's focused properly, as long as it's done for the real reasons, then it could be sanctified, then it could be elevated, then it makes sense. So therefore, he's the one who said that the following are befitting if they are in the hands of the tzaddikim, the hands of the righteous, because they will do the right things with this list of things. Okay? But before we see what these things are, why did he speak so disrespectful of the Romans? It's important to keep in mind that what happened then is happening today too. Don't think that this is just Romans primitive, this is history in the past. No, the psychology back then is the same, more or less, psychology that it is today. And that is why he says the following, if they're in the hands of the tzaddikim, it's befitting, otherwise it's going to be misused. So let's talk a little bit about the Romans. What did the Romans do already? The Romans, in all their emphasis, whatever it is that they did, they worshipped that which is material. So by worshiping the beauty, by worshiping their accomplishments, by worshiping the human being in a sense for his prowess, his strength, they've transformed those physical material things into idols, objects of worship. Right? Instead of worshiping or admiring the ultimate tachlit, the ultimate purpose of what life is for, they gave more emphasis and admiration to mundane things, things that don't deserve all that admiration. And that is why those things became idols, because they figured this is what we're here for. Man is the ultimate end, the ultimate recipient of all the benefits that there is. So therefore, he is the ikar. When you think that way, think for a moment, why do these things become idols? Because when you think that man is the ultimate recipient or benefactor, beneficiary, I guess, of all these things, of all these benefits, then it means that God will be completely ignored. Because man is the ultimate end. He is to be worshipped. He is the ikar. That means God is forgotten. And it is possible for them, therefore, to transform things that are physical in nature into gods, into things to be worshipped. So they did this by admiring those things, but not for the real tachlit of what they are intended, but simply because this is what man can have and enjoy. All right, how is that true or applicable today too? Because today, money and science have become gods as well. Beauty is being commercialized. Right? You know what I mean by beauty being commercialized? Everything with models, right? All the posters and all, you know what I mean. I don't think it's necessary to elaborate on how the beauty, certain kinds of beauties, are being commercialized. And women, of course, are being used as objects for that end, for that purpose. So what they're admiring today is anything that they can derive enjoyment from, anything that they can derive some comfort from, that is to be admired. You have leather seats in your car, that's the ultimate experience. Why? Because it's all about comfort, it's all about enjoyment, it's all about pleasure. It's all about what benefit can you as a human being derive from something. So again, it all revolves again around the human being. So the human being is the tachlit, he is the end, not God. What should we do to serve God? To worship God, to make God happy with us? No, that's not discussed anywhere in TV, on the internet. I think you're gonna have a hard time finding anything about that. Not on Fox News, CNN for sure not, right? BBC, forget it, right? They're not gonna talk about these things. You know, on the contrary, there's more and more filth in all the news channels today, because that's what sells, that's what people want to hear about. Such emptiness, no religion, there's a void in spirituality. Why? Again, because the focus is man. What can we do for him to make his life easier, happier, so he can enjoy things more? And the same was true with the Greeks. The Greeks worshipped beauty, and that is why Venus to them was the goddess of beauty, which they worshipped. So what do we have from the Greeks today? What's coming up soon? A couple years again. The Olympics. And what's the Olympics? The admiration of strength, prowess. You know, that's what it is. It's all from the Greeks. That is what we inherited from them. And wealth is how you measure people today. How much money does he have? That's what people ask about each other. That is how they measure your status in society, by money. Money is what determines. Now, I guess it was in the past too. Status, nothing else. What about chokhmah, wisdom? What wisdom is there today? The wisdom of Hashem? No. The wisdom today is only to be found in the halls of science. You're into science, that is wisdom, that is knowledge. That is what's important. And who are the priests today? The miracle workers of today, the scientists. Yeah. All the discoveries and all their inventions. So this is what they're admiring today. This is what they're looking up to. I'm not making fun of science. Never get me wrong. I never mean to do that. Science is, of course, a great tool, very powerful tool to be able to see the beauty and the design in the world. There's a lot of chokhmah in creation, a lot of knowledge in creation. But you have to be careful that you focus properly. That these are just tools, that God gave us in order for us to live our life as best as possible. So Baruch Hashem, we have cars and we have airplanes today, and we have medication, stuff that did not exist years ago. But it ultimately serves a purpose. That should not be the focus. The ultimate emphasis should be that this is in order to make our life easier so that we can worship Hashem. Otherwise, what is lengthy years for? What do you want to live a long life for? So you can play golf, go around the world several times. What's the long life going to do? Whereas the atheist way of thinking is, well, look at scientists, look at medicine, what we've accomplished with all the medication. We have lengthened people's life. People today live to the 80s and 90s. And that's a blessing. Is it really a blessing, or is it a curse for some people who are living a long life? For some people it's a curse, a long life. What do they do with it? They're looking at the wall. They're in old age homes. They're falling apart. They have Alzheimer's. Wouldn't it be better for a person to live 78, 79, 80 healthy years to almost till the end than to live 95, where the last 20 years of his life he's having to come on to people for everything? What good is it, all that extra years that medication has provided him, right? Unless, of course, those extra years he uses properly. He focuses on the real things. He prays, he learns, he does charity. Then every single maaseh, every single good deed that he does, he gets more and more credit in his account upstairs. But not everybody thinks like that. But that is the ultimate blessing of a long life, if those years are, of course, healthy years and used properly. Otherwise, it may not be such a blessing after all. But their way of thinking, the non-Jewish way of thinking many times, is that, look at what has been accomplished in science and in medicine. Yes, it is an accomplishment. It definitely makes life in some ways more enjoyable, but that is not to be worshipped for itself. That is not the end. That is just a means for a higher end. And what is that higher end? Our connection with Hashem. In other words, if we have certain things that 100 years ago they did not have, that can make our life, our Jewish life or our spiritual life easier, then great. We are able to, people who can't hear well, Let's take them as an example. They have, what do you call those, ear aids?
Hearing aids.
Hearing aids. That's good. So they can hear the Kaddish, they can hear the prayers. Okay. So it's not just the quality of life. Look, this is for, this serves an end. Reading glasses, the removal of cataracts. You know how many people are helped by that? So they can see. But see what? What are they going to see? A movie? What are they going to use their eyes for? What are the eyes for? To see movies, to see things that they shouldn't see, to see good things. How about children? What's wrong with children? Well, do you know that in the past, many, many nations, emperors, gave all kinds of incentives for families to have many, many children because they wanted those children for the army. They wanted those children basically to increase the power of the kingdom. So it was for their selfish reasons that they wanted kids. Is that what people should have kids for? So what Rabbi Shimon is telling us, that these things are good in the hands of the tzaddikim because they will know how to make good use of them. The Reshaim, the wicked, will not make good use of them. So let's begin with talking about Noi. Noi is beauty. What beauty is there in a woman who is an immoral woman? She has beauty, but she's immoral in her behavior. So what good is it, that beauty that she has? What good is it if koach, strength, if it's in the hands of an evil person who hurts people? What happens what good is the money if it's in the hands of people who are stingy, or in the hands of people who misuse it for the wrong things? Chokhmah, what good is it if it's in the hands of a cruel individual who uses his chokhmah, his wisdom, in a crooked way? Do you know that there are bank robbers who are very smart? They are the ones that break into the safe by making a tunnel on the ground from a couple blocks away. There's some creative bank robbers. They don't walk into the bank with a gun. They really think it out, how they're going to get away with it. I'm sure you heard the stories of creative, very creative, incredible creativity involved in robbing a bank. How they thought about it for weeks and months. The shifts of the guards, when they're asleep, when they're not there. How thick is the door of the safe? How much explosives I'm going to need for it, to get the right tools to make the holes. I don't know anything about it, so don't. I just recall reading about it. So, yeah, details of incredible creativity in how they accomplished it. So what was required? Chokhmah. But that chokhmah was used in the wrong way. So if chokhmah is with the wrong people, it's no good. And the same thing with long life. You don't want a rasha to live a long life, a wicked man to live a long life. Or children who are being abused, who are being taken advantage of. So all of these things can be misused. And therefore they can be a curse to humanity, not a blessing. How are they beneficial? Okay, so beauty. Beauty is something very, very special. What's so special about beauty? Anybody wants to suggest? Think about it. What's so special about beauty? Who needs beauty? What does beauty do? What does beauty give? Makes people happy, satisfied? No. Beauty is something that attracts. Right? It has a quality that it attracts. We are attracted to something that's beautiful. We like seeing something that's beautiful. Rabbis tell us that kelim naim, marchivim et da'ato shel adam, a person who has nice furniture, a nice home, it expands his horizons. It broadens his horizons. It gives him a certain yeshuva da'at, perhaps, a certain peace of mind, a certain tranquility, a certain feeling of, positive feeling that is very uplifting. Somehow it is very uplifting to be in beautiful surroundings. We go to nature and we see beautiful surroundings. It's uplifting. It's pleasant. It does something good to the body. So even though that you will find other interpretations about what noi is, what the importance of beauty, this is my interpretation, that perhaps he's referring to what the rabbi said, that beauty is so appealing that it's actually gives a very pleasant feeling. But what's the importance of it? The importance of it is that if a human being is beautiful, and he has chokhmah, and his deeds are beautiful, then he may be able to inspire others. People will like him. In other words, if beauty is on the right things, then it could actually do something positive to the individual. A beautiful person who can therefore inspire. People can learn from. Beautiful kelim that can be pleasant, that can be uplifting, and therefore helpful. So beauty is important. Hashem created beautiful things. Look at the creation of the world is beautiful. The design is beautiful. Look at all the colors. So obviously God wants beauty in this world. Beauty does something. It uplifts us. What about koach? Power, strength. Koach, if a person has koach, he's able to serve God. He's able to get up early in the morning. He's able to demonstrate constancy and dedication to mitzvot. Otherwise, people will get tired. Oh, once a year is good enough for me. No, you need koach, so you should be able to overcome laziness, to be able to be strong and dedicated to whatever we commit ourselves. So, in order to observe the mitzvot, in order for one to be able to invest time and effort in his learning, koach could be very, very helpful. A person who's weak, it's difficult for him. So here is an example of koach having a positive effect. If it's in the hands of the right people, that's koach. How about osher, wealth? Well, money has a tremendous potential. You know what they say in English, money talks. Yeah. In Iran, money talks too? Yeah. I guess everywhere. It's international, right? Regardless of the currency, money talks. Well, money talks means that you can do a lot with it. But what can you do with it? What are you going to do with it? So if it's used for charity works and the like, then it's a good thing. But if money is used for the wrong things, and it can easily be used for the wrong things, what a waste. I just read in the news how somebody just spent his entire $10 million that he won in the lottery in a couple years. It's all gone. I guess if you go to Vegas, you can easily finish real quickly. I don't know what he did, but I'm sure it could easily be gone. It could easily disappear very quickly. It depends how you use it. They're smart. That's why they give you the option of taking it in installments over the years, even though they mean, of course, to gain from it. In the meantime, the money sits with them, the government. But for some people, it's better that they don't get all of it in one shot. They won't know what to do with it. Money, osher, therefore, can be a blessing if you know how to use it right. Kavod, honor. A person who's honorable, adam mechubad nishmaim lo, yachol lehadrich, lashpia. A person who's honorable can guide others, can inspire others, can have a positive influence over others because people listen to him. So, kavod in the right hands will be a useful tool to get other people to follow. Chokhmah, wisdom, knowledge. Well, it all depends how you use it. Remember the thief, the robber? He used his chokhmah in the wrong way, but chokhmah can be used to strengthen our connection with God by learning more and more about what Hashem expects of us, what He wants of us. Therefore, the more intelligent a person is, or I should say, the wiser he is, the more knowledge he has acquired, the more he will know how to do things right. The more he will know how to look away from things that are not so important. He's a chacham. He's not silly. He's not a fool. He won't waste his time on things that have no meaning and have no importance. Well, how does he know? Because he's a chacham. Chacham, not smart necessarily, but wise. He learned a lot. And through his learning, he's able to see right from wrong. So that can be very, very helpful if that's how he uses it. Zikna, what are the benefits of being old? If you ask an average old person, he says, I wish I was 20 again. But that's not right. That's not a good answer. You think you're better off when you were 20? No, in many ways you're better off now that you're over 60. Zikna. Because zikna, hopefully, by then, a person has reached a certain level of maturity where he realizes what's important in life and what's not. He has more clarity. When he learns something, he understands it much better than when he was young and he had a lot of things on his mind, how to pay his bills. He didn't know how to, where he's going to find his next job. In the younger years, we're struggling in the younger years, even though we have a sharp mind, we don't necessarily have that calmness of being able to analyze things properly and know things as best as possible. In the later years, when the mind has settled, a person is able to gain more clarity. So zikna is good for those who are going to use those zikna years, the later years, in a proper way. Studying more and, reviewing things that they've learned in the past and perhaps seeing it differently this time. What about seva? Seva is after zikna. When a person reaches 70 and later, he's seva, complete or full years, a complete life. A lot of people at that point, of course, don't see too much meaning in life. Depends what they're doing with their time. But seva could be very useful because at that time the Yetzer Hara hopefully has quieted down, has calmed down. So a person does not have the same inclinations, the same desires, and hopefully his character is more polished and refined by that point because he's older. He's hopefully therefore not as aggressive, not as angry. Hopefully, there are people who don't change, But at that point, seva, if he's properly focused and if he has learned, and he has hopefully the right state of mind, it could be very, very helpful, where one can really connect to God in a more complete way than he could have when he was 25 years old, when he was struggling with the Yetzer Hara, with the evil inclination on a daily basis. So that could be a tremendous benefit if that time is used in a positive way. Children. Are children good? Well, some are not. What can we do? They don't listen. Some don't listen, some don't follow the parents and the grandparents' path. And as a result of that, they only bring shame to the family. The blessing of children is when they go in their parents' and grandparents' way. That is actually a yardstick, measuring stick of whether one has succeeded in life or not. Whether his children, his progeny, his descendants follow in the same right path. Of course, we're talking about the right path. Otherwise, chas v'shalom, it's a broken branch. If the child, which is the continuation of the father, if he's not in the right path, then it's severed. We hope that the grandchild will come back, but maybe not. So if there's continuity of good works, of tradition, that brings the greatest nachat, the greatest happiness and satisfaction to a father and a grandfather. His children, his emissaries, ambassadors in this world who are still alive, are continuing the same path. So now we're going to read it inside the Mishnah, and you will see how they learn it and where they see it from. So all these that we mentioned, Anoya, Koach, Osher, Kavod, Chokhmah, V'zikneh, V'seva, V'banim, Na'el Tzadikim, V'na'el Ha'olam. It is good for the righteous. It is befitting if it's in the hands of the righteous, of people who know how to use them right, and therefore it will be benefiting for the world as well. Shene'emar, Ateret Tiferet Seva, B'derech Tzedakah Timatzeh. That the crown of glory is seva. Seva can be a crown. It can be a beautiful crown. But derech tzedakah timatzeh, if it's in the road, if it's in the path of tzedakah, of good works, of righteous works. V'omer ateret chachamim oshram. The crown of the chachamim is their wealth. The crown is their wealth? Yeah, because chachamim know how to use their osher, their wealth. So for them, it's a crown. They know how to use it. Ve'omer, these are all pesukim in Mishlei, I believe. Yeah. Ateret zekenim b'nei banim, v'tiferet banim avotam. Here we have the two of them, the two sides. The grandparents being proud of their grandchildren, and the grandchildren being proud of their parents and grandparents. So imagine, Ateret zekenim b'nei banim, if they see grandchildren, the zekenim, the elder generation, for them it's a crown. The grandchildren are a crown, there's something to be proud of if they're following them. And tiferet banim avotam, the kids can take pride in their parents. Ve'omer tiferet bachorim kocham, the beauty of the young is in their koach. Ve'hadar zekenim seva, and the beauty, of course, of zekenim is in their seva. So here too, you have the beauty which is in the hands of the young, on condition that they are doing the right thing, that they are serving Hashem, praying to Hashem. They have tremendous amount of strength in their younger years. And the zekenim in their later years. ואומר וחפרה הלבנה ובושה החמה כי מלאך השם צבקות בהר ציון ובירושלים ונגד זקניו כבוד. Here you have another pasuk in Yeshayahu where the kavod will be with the zekenim, with the elders. And this is a pasuk talking about the time when Mashiach will arrive, when the kavod amiti, the real kavod, will be given to those who deserve it. Rabbi Shimon ben Amasia אומר, אלו שבע מידות שמנו חכמים לצדיקים, כולם נתקיימו ברבי ובבניו. All of these 7 midot that we just mentioned, you know, the beauty, the strength, the wealth, they were all fulfilled with Rabbi. Rabbi is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the one who put the Mishnayot together, and in his children. He was an incredible tzaddik and Talmid Chacham Rabbi. He was a wealthy man. He was a great leader. He was a smart man. He was a righteous man. He was a holy man. He had tremendous many good qualities. And the rabbis tell us that on his deathbed, he raised his 10 fingers and he said, God, you know that even though I had all the wealth in the world, I did not enjoy it or use it for my own benefit. It was only meant to be used for you, for your service. There was all that he used, all that he touched, all that he handled. It was not for himself to enjoy, just to enjoy it or just to derive enjoyment from. No. Whatever he did get, and he was blessed with a lot, was used only for the service of Hashem. Mishnah Tet. Next Mishnah is a very, I would call it cute story, but don't take it to mean that it's just a cute story. It tells us so much about the Torah. It's an incident that occurred, and you know, when you read through it, you say, wow, did it really happen? Amar Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, Pam achat hayiti me'alech b'derech, I was walking on the road, ופגע בי אדם אחד, and I met up with an individual, ונתן לי שלום, he greeted me, והחזרתי לשלום, and I greeted him. אמר לי, רבי, מאיזה מקום אתה? Rabbi, from which city are you? אמרתי לו, מעיר גדולה של חכמים וסופרים אני. You can see by the answer what was important to this rabbi. He pointed out, I'm from a great city of rabbis and scribes. Not just an ordinary city, a great city that has chachamim v'sofrim. That is what is important to me, and I happen to come from such a city, he says. Amar li Rabbi, I have an offer to make. רצונך שתדור עמנו במקומנו, perhaps you would want to come live with us, and I'll give you a good incentive. ואני אתן לך 1,000 דינרי זהב, אבנים טובות ומרגליות. And I will give you 1,000. How much is 1,000 times 1,000? 1,000,000. I will give you 1,000,000 gold coins. Wow, good salary. Vavanim tovot, on top of that, I'll give you bonus too. Precious stones and pearls. Would you want to come? I think most people would run. Yes, even if you gave me a third of that. אמרתי לו, I told him, he says, בני, אם אתה נותן את כל כסף וזהב, אבנים טובות ומרגליות שבעולם, you can give me all the money in the world. אין דר אלא במקום תורה. I only will live in a place of Torah. Wait a minute, Rabbi, how do you know that place is not a place of Torah? Maybe that's a place of Torah too. And they pay well. So the commentators explain, if somebody talks about 1,000,000 coins of gold, that's all they care about in that place. There's no Torah. If that's all that if that's on his mind, if that's what he's offering, and there's an abundance of that over there, you can rest assured there's probably no Torah. And that's what he's looking for, I would call him a babysitter. He's not really looking for a rabbi. I don't think they're interested that much in being taught. But anyway, the answer here is very interesting. You give me all the money in the world, I will not leave a place of Torah. Why not? Go for a couple of years and then come back. No. When a person leaves this world, they will not accompany him. What will accompany him? Not his money, not the silver or gold, not the precious stones or pearls. Only the Torah and his good deeds. As the pasuk says in Mishlesh, when you live your life, it guides you. When you are put in the grave, it protects you from all the accusations. When you rise, whether you rise to Olam Haba or when you rise for the day of judgment upstairs, she will speak up for you. All the Torah and all the good deeds, they are your attorneys. They are your spokesmen. Talking about this world. As we live our life, it guides us. As we've said before, the Torah is like a GPS. It shows us the right way. In the grave, in the world to come, or in the day of judgment. I would rather have the Torah, and it's more enjoyable to me than all the thousands of gold and silver. Hashem says, after all the silver and gold is mine, okay. So here we see a lot of pesukim that he quotes in justifying why he would never go to such a place unless there's Torah and Chachamim. Very important foundation in Judaism, this Mishnah. Very important idea being expressed over here. He's telling us, no matter how much you may like a place, and believe me, there are certain places that I like. I would love to live in Yosemite. Nature, no traffic, no smog, good weather, calm. Who needs the headaches of a big city? But what's the problem with such beautiful, nice, calm places? There's no Bet Knesset, there's no Jewish community, there's no school for the kids. Mikveh, well, maybe you find a big lake there. But a Jew is limited to where he can live. A Jew can only live if he's in a Jewish surroundings. He needs a community. We have no choice. So we go on vacation to these places. But to live a life, it has to be a life where there is Torah Chachamim. There's questions to be asked. There's community life. It's a community life. We live a community type of life. We're supposed to. Where there is a minyan, where there is smachot, where we attend each other's simcha, avelut. Unfortunately, sometimes people go to a house of mourning. You can't just live as a hermit by yourself in some place. Even if it's not a cave, forget about the cave. You live in a beautiful palace on the top of a mountain by yourself. What kind of a life is that? So he says, you give me all the money in the world, what good is it? As a Jew, I need to live in a place of Torah and Chachamim. And wherever there was no Torah and Chachamim, in villages, in all kinds of little towns, all over the world, by the way, in Iran, there were many little towns where there's no Torah. And the people who lived there, for some reason, they had to live there, they had nothing. They were not knowledgeable at all. Unless they maintained contact with a stronger community, unless they brought in a rabbi every so often, their kids knew nothing, and the grandchildren knew less. So you really have to weigh the pros and cons of moving where you are going. I can buy a house 3 stories for a quarter of the price of what I can buy here, somewhere else. I'm sure there are places in the world that you can buy a 3-story house, not 2 stories, 3 stories house, with a swimming pool, right? All the amenities for a lot less than you can buy here in Los Angeles. This is an expensive place. Do you really want to go there? Well, if there's no Torah and there's no school, don't even think about it, because the house does not compare with your spiritual needs. How could you go? Yes, it's beautiful. It's a dream to have your own home. It is, and I wish it for everyone. But you can't have it if it's going to come at a cost of giving up your Torah way of life. What can you do? Some people, they go to areas of the world where it's freezing. In the winter, it's freezing because that's where their parnassah is. That's where their livelihood, their work, their job. They have no choice. Okay, at least, but if there's a Torah, then you can justify it. I make fun of some people who live in these cold places. Even though there's a shul there, I said, "What are you doing here? This was intended for polar bears." This place Hashem made for polar bears. This is not for human dwelling. What are you doing here? He says, "Well, the Eskimos are here too, so I can be here." The problem, what happens in real life? When people make roots, they establish themselves, and they have a job, they don't just get up and move. They suffer through the winter, and they wear masks to shul. I've seen that. People wearing masks to shul. Have you ever seen that? You think it's Purim or something. He's wearing a mask. It's so cold, the earmuff, the mask, the gloves. Why do you live here for? He says, I have a very good paying job here. Just for that alone? Is it worth it? Yeah, apparently it is. If the money is more important than anything else, they'll just struggle through the winter. And in the summer, the humidity, of course. I make fun of New Yorkers. He says, what are you doing here? He says, in the winter, you run to Miami. In the summer, you're running away to the mountains. You're always running away, so just get out of here. Why? You're running. You're running. Don't run. Just stay put in one place and don't run. You're trying to get away from the weather. But it's a place of Torah. It is a very, very developed. There's a lot of pluses there. It's a big city. A lot of Judaism going on there. But what can we do? There's not. You don't have all the benefits. So you have to give up some things. Okay. In Eretz Yisrael too, it's Eretz Yisrael. Despite the difficulties that may exist there, it's Eretz Yisrael. So priority number one is a place of Torah. That's the message that we get over here. Rabbis tell us, as we've learned before, don't ever claim that the Torah will come after you. I'll settle, I'll bring the Torah later. No, that will not happen. Make sure before you go that it is suitable for a Jewish family. Otherwise, it doesn't pay. There was once an individual who asked his rabbi, here in Lithuania, it's very, very tough. I was offered something in Argentina, in the Pampas area. It's a place where not too many people there, but you can make a lot of money. He says, what do you say to this proposition? He says, are there any tzaddikim there? Any righteous people? He says, I don't know, but there are no rashaim either. But there are no wicked people. There are no tzaddikim, but there are no wicked people there either. He says, no. Let there be a few wicked people, but as long as there's one tzaddik. Because you always have to learn from someone. If you're not going to have one tzaddik, one righteous man to learn from, what's eventually going to happen, even if there's no rashaim, no wicked, the wickedness in you, the potential rasha within you will awaken one day, and you'll be misled. So you always have to have somebody to look up to. You want to have a tzaddik where you go. If there are no tzaddikim where you go, even if there are no rashaim, there are no wicked people, it's a good place. Neutral. Don't go there. You're going to make more money. Yeah, it doesn't pay. You know how dangerous it was to come here to this country in the late 1800s when people were leaving Europe to come to America. After the Industrial Revolution, America was a great place, but it was a desert when it came to Judaism. A lot of people stopped being observant as a result. It was very, very risky. It wasn't for everyone. So here, he's being offered money. But wait a minute, with money you can build Torah. Is that true? With money you can build Torah? Well, not exactly, not always. Many of you perhaps have seen or heard about people moving their homes. They come and cut up the house, and they transport it on a truck to another location. You can transport an entire castle, perhaps, by breaking it up into smaller pieces, and take it, and you have a replica in another place of what you had where you started off. These kinds of things are transportable. Torah is not as easily transportable just with money. You come with money and you transport the Torah that you had there, here. No. Money is not what's going to make it. What's going to make Torah flourish is Mesirut Nefesh. It's very, very much devotion, self-sacrifice, hard work. And that is why not every place flourishes with Torah. It requires a tremendous amount of dedication by people who are really interested. And if you're by yourself, you're up against City Hall. I mean, it's not easy. So people have all these dreams. I'm going to do it. I have all the money. I'm going to build a shul. And what's the shul going to be full of? People coming once a week. You're going to have no minyan. You're going to have a beautiful sanctuary made of nice polished marble, imported tiles, and all the. And there are places like this in the world. I've seen them. They're empty. Museums. It requires tremendous dedication. If a Jew is not dedicated and not committed, it won't work. And if he's by himself, then he has no help, for sure. He won't survive. Okay, one can claim, however, that Rabbi Yossi does not understand the value of money. Rabbi Yossi doesn't know anything about money. Maybe that's why he doesn't value money. No, that's not true. And that's why he quotes David HaMelech. David HaMelech was a king, he had money. And David said, Tovli Torah picha me'alfei zahav v'chesed. Who said this? David said, I would rather have the Torah than all the gold and silver in the world. So who's saying that? Not your average individual. David is saying that. If David can say that, Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, of course, can rely on that. But then the bottom line is that the main reason why I don't care about the money is not because money is worthless, it's because you don't take it with you. That's the main reason. What are we going to take with us? Our good deeds. And I told you once a story of a king who had a Jewish advisor. Non-Jewish advisors were jealous of him. And they were always looking for a way to get him, to catch him. And they were telling the king, who was a good friend of the advisor, listen, he made all his money because he stole from you. He said, stole from me, he took from me. What are you talking about? I never believed him. Until one day they asked him, why don't you check his books? You'll see for yourself. So he had no choice. He said, okay, I'll do an audit. He called his Jewish advisor. He says, I want to do an audit. Please bring me a statement tomorrow of all the possessions that you have. I'm sorry, I really have to see what you have, what you own. So the next morning he brings him a small piece of paper with a couple items listed on the piece of paper, and the king sees it and he says, come on, you're making fun of me? I'm very upset at you. You're lying to me. I know myself you have a lot more than what's on this piece of paper. What are you talking? What you write over here? Just a few little things. I know myself. Come on, don't lie. He says, Your Honor, you don't understand. What you think I have, I don't have. All the properties that you think I own, anybody can take it away from me tomorrow. You could take it away. A fire can burn them down. Those are things that don't really belong to me. You know what I wrote down on this piece of paper? All the charity that I did. That's in the safe deposit box upstairs. Nobody can reach it. Nobody can steal it. Nobody can take that away from me. What I have here, you can take it away. You're the king. Something can happen to it tomorrow. I cannot be sure that it will be mine in 5 minutes from now. I only wrote down my good deeds, my charity. Those are my real acquisitions. The tzedakah. The king, of course, loved that answer because that's the truth. I think it's brought down in the Midrash, a beautiful, beautiful explanation of why all these things don't accompany us. There was once an individual who had 3 friends. He was called by the king. He was being accused of something, and he had to go see the king. So he figured he had 3 good friends. He's going to take them with him, let them speak for him. One friend said, I'm sorry, I can't go. He says, the king? No, I don't want to go. I'm your friend, but not to go to the king. The second friend went with him. As soon as they got to the palace, said, I'm sorry, I'm not going in anymore, I'm afraid. It was only the third friend who was not his best friend. He was a friend that he was less friendly with, that he didn't like as much. It was actually that friend that said, I'm going with you till the end. And he saved his life. And that friend saved his life, spoke up for him. Who are these 3 friends? Money is friend number 1. Our relatives, friend number 2. Good deeds are friend number 3. Our money, we're going to the king now. They're not going to come with us, I'm sorry. They say, I'm sorry, I'm not going with you. It's going to stay behind. That's friend number 1. He was your friend. The money was your friend all your life. But now he's not your friend anymore. He's staying behind. The other friends who you're very close to, your family, your wife, they're going to go with you, but till the grave. Once they put in the grave, well, they're not going in there. So I'm sorry, until here, not anymore. I can't go beyond this point. The third friend, who many times we're not so friendly to, we don't respect as much, they are the tzedakah that we're supposed to do, the good deeds that we're supposed to do. They are the ones that are going to go to us, with us, into the grave and speak for us and save our life. They are the true friend. They are the real assets that we have. And we sometimes think that they're not so much our friend. More than anybody else, they are the most committed. They are the ones that we take with us. They are the ones that are going to go along and accompany us in Olam Hazeh and in Olam Haba. I saw a beautiful explanation, by the way, for somebody who does have a lot of money. What should he do with all that money? There is a mitzvah called Maaser Sheni. During certain years of the 7-year cycles, you take 10%, an additional 10%, and of that tomatoes you grew, for example, and you eat it in Yerushalayim. You can eat it, but you have to eat it in Yerushalayim. They're holy. What happens if you can't make it on time to Yerushalayim? The tomatoes are going to spoil. So you can exchange it, do a pidyon for money, take that money, come to Yerushalayim, and buy yourself a falafel. Yeah, you don't have to buy falafel, you can buy anything you like. Eat the food there with that money, right? You make an exchange so that you should be able to transport money instead of tomatoes. So the idea of Maaser Sheni can be applied here too. When a person is blessed with a lot of money, for sometimes, it's not a blessing, it's a curse. But let's say he's really blessed with the money. He should do a pidyon. He should exchange that money. You can't take the money with you. It's right? You can't. You can't take it into the grave. Even though I told you once, the father who wanted his kids to bury him with all his money.
It sucks.
No. There was a father who said, "You're burying all my money with me. I'm taking it with me." So one son came and wrote his father a check and took all the cash. Yeah. But anyway, so the money you can't take with you. You just can't in the grave. So what do? You do a pidyon. While you're alive, exchange it for good things, for tzedakah. Use that money in a good way. And then, of course, it will remain with you in the upper world. Those deeds will remain with you. Those deeds you will take with you. So it's a nice concept, a nice idea of the Maaser Sheni, that we make pidyon in order to be able to eat it in Yerushalayim. What do we do with all this money? We can't take it with it. Do a pidyon. Exchange it for something that can be used upstairs. Exchange it for good deeds. And that's how you safeguard your money.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
isn't Maaser Sheni mostly regarded for agricultural land?
Yeah, food. Maaser Sheni is from food.
But coming from agriculture?
Agriculture that you grew. Yeah. Because Maaser Rishon was also from that. Terumah was also from the food that you grew. Just that we also have Maaser from money, which is a separate thing. So Maaser Sheni is a mitzvah, is one of those mitzvot that we had in certain years. Maaser Ani in the years 3 and 6, and Maaser Sheni years 1, 2, 4, and 5 of the 7 years of Shemitah. It's the cycle of Shemitah. All right, just to finish up, the last Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon, no, we said that. Chamisha kinyanim kana Kadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamo. Kadosh Baruch Hu has 5 acquisitions in this world. Ve'elu hen Torah. Kinyan echad, Torah is one acquisition. Shamayim va'aretz, the heaven and earth, is another acquisition. Kinyan echad, Abraham. Kinyan echad, Israel. Kinyan echad, the Jewish people is another. Bet HaMikdash kinyan echad. So that is the 5 kinyanim. Torah kinyan minayin. How do we know the Torah is a kinyan? Lechtiv Hashem kanani reshit darko kedem mifanav me'az. The Torah was always around. Hashem had the Torah even before He created the world. It was His kinyan. Shamayim v'aretz kinyan echad. It's also called a kinyan, the heavens and earth. Minayin shenemar ko amar Hashem b'shamayim kis'i v'aretz adom raglai eize bet bait asher tivnu li ve'eize makom menuchati v'omer. So we see from the Pesukim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers the heaven and earth as His footstool, as His home. How wonderful are the deeds of Hashem. Everything was designed with tremendous amount of wisdom. The whole world is full of His possessions. Abraham kinyan echad minayin. Where is Abraham? Kinyan nechtiv vayvarcheu vayomar baruch Abraham le'el elyon koneh shamayim va'aretz. So we see the kinyan associated with Abraham as well. Kinyan, a possession, an acquisition, something that belongs to you. Israel kinyan echad minayin dechtiv ad yavor amecha Hashem ad yavor am zu kanita, you have acquired the nation. V'omer lekdoshim asher ba'aretz hemma v'adirei kol chetzi bam. Bet hamikdash kinyan echad minayin shenemar mikdash Adonai konu yadecha. The temple is also his possession that he formed. V'omer v'yeviem el gevul kodsho har zei kanata yamino. So what are we talking about over here? Kinyanim. What is a kinyan? An acquisition, a possession. A possession means that something is important to you. A possession shows that there is ownership. All of these kinyanim, what they have in common is that through these kinyanim, you acquire the ultimate tachlit, the ultimate purpose of life is contained within these 5 possessions or 5 acquisitions. They indicate what the purpose of the world is for. So for example, the Torah is a possession of Hashem. His possession, I guess, is a better word than acquisition. Something that he possesses, something that he owns. And the Torah is obviously one through which one can come and see and be enlightened and see the purpose of the world, to see why Hashem created the world. It guides him. Same thing with Shamayim Va'aretz. Through the heavens and earth, when one looks at creation and he admires Hashem's handiworks, the galaxies, the stars, everything, the beauty that there is in all the details, that can bring him to a certain awareness that God created the world. Abraham is also considered a possession because Abraham is the first one that came to that recognition that God created the world, that God manages the world. And Israel is considered a possession because look at the fact. We have survived all these years despite all the persecutions. That means Hashem is protecting us. There's no other logical explanation as to why the Jewish nation is still around. So obviously, it's not only because we're around, it's because Hashem put it there for a purpose. Hashem wants us to be the light unto the nations, because that serves creation. That serves the ultimate purpose. Bet HaMikdash, same thing. Bet HaMikdash, the temple, is to connect between us and God. The temple that exists upstairs as a form of spiritual temple, Hashem wanted that temple to exist down here, for a Jew to be able to connect with Hashem in a strong way. Let there be one place, which is the temple of Hashem. But even though it's destroyed now, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It still exists, and partially it is to be found in the temples that we have, the Batei Midrash, the Batei Knesset. And that is how we connect until Bezat Hashem soon, the Beit Shlishi, the third one will be rebuilt. How powerful this Beit Knesset is, you can even see from many, many, many stories, but I'll just share one with you. There was a Jew who was very, very distant from Judaism. He has drifted far, far apart. And he was walking one day towards the evening of the end of Yom Kippur. What do we do at the very last moment of Yom Kippur? We blow the shofar. And he heard that shofar. And it was the hearing of the shofar that awoke him. And he came back to Judaism. He came back and returned to his roots. So we see what the Bet HaKnesset can do, what a prayer can do, what the shofar can do. Never give up on anybody. This is what connects us with Hashem. So the Bet HaMikdash, therefore, is a very important kinyan, a possession of Hashem, because that is what connected us with Him. And ultimately, for what purpose? Everything that was done was for the service of Hashem there. And last but not least, the last few lines of the last Mishnah is Kol ma shebara Kadosh Baruch Hu be'olamo lo bara ela lichvodo. Everything. Now we just spoke about 5 possessions. Just a second here. We just spoke about 5 important possessions that ultimately remind us of our tachlit. They connect us to the tachlit, the ultimate purpose. They serve the tachlit. Here, the last Mishnah tells us that everything that God created in this world, lo bara ela lichvodo. Now, I have some news to tell you. Everything, from the greatest galaxies to the smallest cockroach, bug, everything that Hashem created in this world was created for His honor, in His honor. Shene'emar kol hanikra b'shmi v'lichvodi berati v'yetzarti v'avasiti. Everything that is called in my name, it's for me. For me, Hashem said, I made it for me, for myself. And look what He says here: berati v'yetzarti v'asitiv. I created it. I formed it. I made it. It's all the same. But if you remember from Kabbalah, there's 4 worlds. There's Atzilut, there's Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. And here you have a remez of sorts, an insinuation to the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, that Hashem formed everything. From the highest worlds and realms to the lowest ones, it's all by Hashem, somehow for His honor, that we don't understand, of course, how everything somehow is for His honor. But the world is a world that is created for a purpose. It's not random. It's not just by chance, Big Bang, for no reason. Hashem was just playing, what's that game when you shoot...
Arrows.
Huh?
Billiards.
Billiards, yeah. Just shooting a bill, to see... Pool, yeah, to see if I hit it or not. Hit and miss. No, this is not. It's all for His kavod, to bring out His honor. So what we see from this is that if you look at all of creation, you can see the handiwork of Hashem. You don't need science. You on your own can see it because the Bria, the creation, testifies that there is a creator. And finally, Hashem yimloch l'olam va'ed. That is the last pasuk here that's quoted, that in the end God will rule forever. What is He telling us here? Why does He finish with these words? Because in the end, this is what we're all aspiring for. In the end, this is what we do every day when we say the Shema Yisrael. We make Hashem our King. Anachnu mamlichim oto alenu. We basically accept His sovereignty over us. Very important idea. When a Jew wears his kippah, when he puts on his tzitzit, when he prays, he basically testifies to this fact. The Shabbat testifies that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. All of the holidays testify that we were once taken out from Egypt. These are testimonies that we give, very powerful testimonies, that without that, what are we here for? What do we serve? Which purpose do we serve? But not only are we testifying that Hashem created the world, we're testifying that Hashem is Melech, which is an important idea. People think that Judaism is a theocracy. You know what a theocracy is? It's a government that is governed by religion. There's oligarchy, the ruling of the few. There is democracy, supposedly, that people choose. There is totalitarian, aristocracy, right? All kinds of governments where there's one ruler and dictatorship and so forth by force, against the will. All kinds. You know what we say when we say Hashem yimloch l'olam va'ed? What are we really saying? All of this is shtuyot, nonsense. Judaism doesn't care about who the prime minister is, who this minister is, who the king is, who the ruler is. All of these forms of government in Judaism would not make one bit of a difference if the head is Hashem. If all of us would recognize, and hopefully in Israel they'll recognize it soon, that Hashem is the real boss, prime minister, vice prime minister, all these things don't matter. You can have any kind of government you want. You can have a democracy. Fine. But remember, the bottom line is Hashem is the boss. If everybody realizes that Hashem yimloch l'olam va'ed, then all of these things don't matter. Of course, you can talk about the benefits, the pros and cons of this government versus this government. In Judaism, all of these things don't matter. That's the point. Hashem is not only the creator of the world, He's not only mashgiach on the world, He's the king. The world doesn't know it, but B'ezrat Hashem, soon the whole world will know it. Amen.
Amen.